With the MLB draft just over 2 weeks away, what better time to look back at the 2023 MLB draft and grade every team based off their pick in the first round? In this draft, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Mets lost their first round pick due to having too big of a payroll, but everyone else still gets a grade, and we'll go ahead and get into that. Number 28, the Houston Astros took Bryce Matthews, a shortstop prospect out of Nebraska. There were some question marks whenever he came out of the draft as to whether his bat gains would stick. So far, he has answered every question you ever could have had. So far this year, he is having an 885 OPS, has 9 homers on the year. He's still stealing his fair share of bags at 22. He is going to move over to second base just long term. He's not really going to be a shortstop. He doesn't have the arm or the movement for being a shortstop, but second base suits him perfectly. He's mashing. He's a pool happy type of guy, so hitting in Houston into the Crawford box is going to be great. I gave this pick an A minus. At number 27, the Philadelphia Phillies stopped the slide of Aiden Miller. He broke a bone previous to the MLB draft in 2023, so that forced him to fall, and the Philadelphia Phillies snatched him right up, and he has returned the favor in tenfold. In his first 2 seasons, he had an OPS above 800. He gained some power on in 2024 with 11 bombs, 60 RBIs. He also is going to steal a few bags at 23. This year, he has hit a little bit more of a roadblock at AA. He is not quite hitting the ball at the same level, 713 OPS. He's striking out a little bit more. He is walking more this season, and he is turning on the power just as much, as well as 26 stolen bags already. He's just doing a lot of enticing things that you really like to see from him. You expect the batting to come back around as he sees more pitching at AA. Remember, he's just 21 years old. And whenever you're getting the number 21 prospect at 27th in the draft, I think that's an A pick for me. At number 26, we saw another high school shortstop who had plenty of tools go late into the draft, and that is going to be George Lombard Jr., who went to the New York Yankees. They did really well with this pick as well, because so far, this year especially, he has really turned it on. He already received the promotion from high A to double A this season after mashing at high A in 24 games. Double A, he has hit a little bit more of a roadblock, especially with the bat, but he just does a lot of things well on the baseball field. He's a good defender. He should stick at shortstop. He's been getting the majority of his time there, but there are some, third base question marks there. He is also stealing a ton of bags. Already has 24 in the year. He stole 39 last year, and he does a lot of things well. He's going to hit for a little bit of pop. He's going to play a good defense. He's going to steal you some bags. He just does a lot of things well. And again, whenever you're getting a top 50 prospect this late into the draft, I'm going to give you your flowers, so I gave them an A minus. At number 25, we have the first player that's already switched teams and organizations, and that's going to be Dylan Head, who was a part of that Luis Arias trade last season. It is an interesting player for sure. He has top of the scale speed, unbelievable speed. He's going to be a center fielder, and plus he's supposed to have a good hit tool. Now, we've really yet to see that put into fruition so far. This season he has a 217 batting average. Last season was 243, so you're really not seeing that come through. But this year, we are starting to see that speed come through. 23 stolen bases on the year already. He has 2 homers as well, so you'd love to see him maybe get a little bit of pop in there as well. He is just a player that has a lot of tools, and if he can see that hit tool come back around, you could definitely see him start to actually regain some of that form. I gave them a C minus, but I still hold some hope out for Dylan Head. At number 24, we have Houston Waldrip, who's one of the more interesting pitchers to talk about on this list because he has the stuff. And we saw whenever he puts it all together last year that he can make an impact and make it clear to the major leagues very quickly. And last year was a dream for him because he made it all the way to the major leagues, crushing Double A, crushing Triple A, made it to the majors, struggled. We'll call it what it is. He only had 2 starts, but you have an ERA at 16. It's not a great look. And it's really preluded what's happened this year because at Triple A this year he's made 14 starts, has a 5.6 ERA. The strikeouts are still there, but the walks have ballooned again. It hasn't been a great year for him, and I still hold hope out for him, but I'm going to give them a B just because the player is there. At number 23, we had one of my least favorite picks of the first round with Ralphie Velasquez going to the Cleveland Guardians. I did appreciate that the Guardians went out of their wheelhouse of a plus hit tool second baseman, but Ralphie Velasquez was one of these. He's going to be a fringe catcher, first base type, and he's going to hit the crap out of the baseball. That's what he was coming out of the draft, and so far, we haven't really seen the hit the crap out of the baseball. We've seen the home runs, but we haven't seen the consistency put together. And we've already answered whether he's going to be a catcher. The answer was no. He's going to be a first baseman. They put him at first base pretty consistently. He needs to be a masher. He needs to be smacking the crap out of the baseball all the time. and we haven't seen that yet. We've seen it in strides, but we haven't seen it all put together yet. Now he is 20 years old, so there is room for this to bounce back, but it's just right now not looking the greatest. At 22, we had Cole Emerson going to the Seattle Mariners, and we have to talk about the prep shortstops at the back end of this class because they are nothing short of phenomenal. Cole Emerson is the number 16 ranked prospect in all of baseball. He has a really good hit tool, plus he's been playing a lot better this year at shortstop. There were some question marks of whether he'll stick there. This year, he's been a lot better in that regard. He doesn't really strike out, only 17% of the time, walks 13% of the time. He has a 268 average this season, 374 on base, 427 slug. He has 7 homers this year, 5 stolen bases. He just is a really well-rounded guy. And to think that he's only 19 years old doing this at the high A level, it's really, really impressive stuff. This guy could be in the majors at age 20, 21. I have to give him an A. Like, I have to. You get the number 16 prospect at number 22 in the draft. I think that's an A. At number 21, the St. Louis Cardinals selected Chase Davis, a corner outfield prospect from Arizona. Now, this year, his hit tool problems are kind of starting to show through. He has a 201 average. He's striking out 29% of the time, which is kind of concerning as he's made that bump to Double A. Now, he is going to be a corner outfielder. You have to make use of that arm, so you definitely need to see that bat come through more than it has been. I do have hope for him. Last year was a good sign. He had 12 homers. He had 70 RBIs, 9 stolen bases, still above 10% with the walk rate, and at 23% K rate. If he can continue to do stuff like that, I have hope for him. I'm going to give him a C+, but it definitely is trending in the wrong direction. At number 20, the Toronto Blue Jays took Arjun Namala, who at the time was only 17 years old, but showed plenty of flashy tools that made him really intriguing and showed a lot of projection for him. And he's really answered the bell so far in his career. Up to this point, he is just mashing baseballs. He hit 17 homers last year, already has 11 homers at just 19 years old in high A ball. He has really improved this year with his hit tool. He only is striking out about 20% of the time. The average is up to 258, and you put that together with how much pop he has, and he's an everyday shortstop. Like, he has all the tools to be a top 50 prospect, top 25 prospect if he can continue to kind of put it all together, because we knew the power was there. We knew the speed was there. We just need to see it all put together, and he's putting it all together so far this year. I went ahead and gave them an A for the selection. At number 19, the Tampa Bay Rays took Brighton Taylor, who I would have been a lot more giddy on had I done this video about 3 months ago, because this year he has really hit a wall, and it's really tough to see because last year he hit 20 bombs, had 62 RBIs and 29 stolen bases, a 143 WRC plus. Yeah, he's probably not going to be a shortstop, but those numbers will play pretty much anywhere around the diamond. This year, it's not looked so great. 4 homers, 25 RBIs in 61 games played, a 63 WRC plus, and he's striking out over 30% of the time. It just hasn't been a great look for him in Double A so far this year. Hopefully he can get back to those numbers he was putting up in his first and second year in the minor leagues, because he looked unreal for the first about 130 games of his minor league career, but the last about 60 have been dreadful. At number 18, the Milwaukee Brewers went underslot with Brock Wilkin, a third baseman out of Wake Forest. In his first year, he looked incredible. Like, he was living up to that. 47 games played, had an 887 OPS, 5 homers, 29 RBIs. Next year, he really struggled. He really did. Only 679 OPS as he got moved up to Double A from rookie ball. He did hit 17 homers, so he showed that plus power that we knew he had. 51 ribbies as well mixed in there. And this year, he's only built off of that so far. He has a 230 batting average, a 392 on base, 550 slugging, and a 942 OPS with 18 homers and 41 RBIs. So already improving on that home run total from last year. He's walking more than he was last year at a 20% clip. The strikeouts are still very high at 26%, but they are down from last year. I would expect him to get the call up to AAA relatively soon. He's been absolutely mashing the baseball. Yes, the strikeouts are a little high, but everything else looks fantastic from Brock Wilkin. I do have to, take into account last year, but I'm going to give them a B+ for the selection. At number 17, the Baltimore Orioles took Enrique Bradfield, who is the most prototypical center fielder I could ever envision. He has top of the scale speed. He's a good fielder. His arm is relatively weak. He has no pop, but he's going to have a good hit tool as well. It's a center fielder to me. So far this year, the hit tool actually hasn't been quite at the level it needs to be. He only has a 240 average, but he is not striking out very much either. Only a 16% clip so far this year is matched his walk rate, which is also at 16% this year. He has one homer, 7 RBIs, and he has 15 stolen bases already on the year. Last year, he stole 74 bags. Like, his speed is unreal. You just got to get there, dude. His walk rate is really good for somebody who has that kind of speed. He really puts pressure on the defense. So there are definitely things to like, but I need to see that hit tool come around a lot more, or else you're literally going to be Billy Hamilton. And that's not the greatest selection for me here at number 17, so I'm going to go ahead and give them a C. At number 16, the San Francisco Giants took Bryce Eldridge, who was one of the more interesting players in the draft just because there was serious consideration that he could be a two-way guy. Now, they have pretty much axed the pitching and thrown him at first base his entire career because he mashes. He absolutely destroys the baseball across his minor league career. He has an 873 OPS. This year, it has slowed down a little bit as he's reached AAA, but he's just 20 years old. He's 20 years old at AAA, but he has on the year a 263 average, a 329 on base, 484 slugging, 125 WRC plus, and has 10 homers and 33 RBIs already. Last year, that was a 23 homer and 92 RBI mark. Not enough can be said for this guy. He's only 20 years old. Had he not gone down with the injury that he just got, he might have had a serious chance of being in San Francisco at the major league level this season, maybe by August. Like, he was just down on that sort of blistering pace. He still could get there if he gets back healthy and still matches, but he has just been unreal so far this year and across his minor league career. I'm going to go ahead and give them an A. Number 15, the Chicago White Sox took Jacob Gonzalez, who at the time looked like he was going to be able to hit for some pop. He was going to be a really exciting shortstop prospect, especially with his big arm. And so far, that really hasn't translated. The pop has pretty much disappeared with his season high being 8. This year, it's up to 5 in about 68 games. And he's probably not going to stick at shortstop either. He's probably going to be a long-term second baseman. It's just not a great pick for the White Sox at this point. It's obvious hindsight. It's easy to say that, but it's just not looking like a great pick. I'm going to give them a D. Luckily for the White Sox, they also ended up with the 14th selected player in Kyle Teal, who the Boston Red Sox selected and then traded over to the White Sox for the Garrett Crochet exchange. The White Sox did really good in that trade to get Kyle Teal because he has mashed every level of the minor leagues. So far in 50 games played in AAA, he had an 886 OPS with 8 homers and 30 RBIs. They moved him up to the major league level for 14 games, had a 282 average, 767 OPS, had 0 homers, 2 RBIs. He's just solid. He's just really good. He's going to stick at catcher. There's not really much you could say to take away from this pick. I went ahead and gave both Red Sox and White Sox an A. At number 13, the Chicago Cubs took Matt Shaw. Now, if you can look past his major league numbers this year, which have not been great, he's been every bit of an elite prospect so far in his minor league career. This year, he's only played 24 games there because he shared so much of his time in the major league. But he had 286 average, 409 on base, 560 slug, 149 WRC plus. Already had 6 homers and 14 RBIs in that time. It's just the major league level that's really hard to look past because he's not been good. He has a 596 OPS, a 73 OPS plus. He has only 2 homers, 10 RBIs. He just hasn't looked like the same player at the major league level. So I'm going to give them an A minus, but they still deserve a good grade for getting a guy that's been that elite at the minor league level. At number 12, the Arizona Diamondbacks took Tommy Troy, a shortstop prospect out of high school. Now, he is not going to play shortstop. He's going to be a second baseman. He's been pretty much playing there exclusively this year, and he's not really been having the smoothest ride through the minor leagues either. Last year, he struggled. A 234 average, 318 on base, 363 slug, 92 WRC plus, walking under 10% of the time, striking out over 22. This year, he's up to a 13% walk rate, 17% K rate, 129 WRC plus, already has a career high homer in 8, has 12 stolen bases on the year. He has plus speed. He's going to be hopefully a high average type of second baseman who has some pop. That's like his ceiling. But we've also seen the floor be pretty low as well. So I've given them a B minus, but he's definitely trending in a better direction. At number 11, we have the Los Angeles Angels, who picked a very intriguing player in Nolan Chanwell because he made it to the major leagues his draft year, and he was mashing every step of the way there. He played 29 games there in his first year. He's been there pretty much every game since. and he's been pretty mediocre at the major league level. So it's tough to say like what you can do because he made it to the major leagues and he was there very quickly, mashed every step of the way. And now he's been here and he has a career 106 OPS plus. And he has only accumulated 2.4 WAR across that time. He only has 20 homers, 90 RBIs. He's just a very quirky first baseman, I would say, because he walks a lot, doesn't strike out, but he also doesn't hit homers. He's just a very he's a very quirky guy at first base, and I'm gonna give him an A minus just because he is an everyday major leaguer. You got to give him credit for that, especially sitting just 2 years out from the draft. But I think there were higher ceiling guys that they could have went with. At number 10, the Miami Marlins took Noble Meyer, who has the stuff, absolutely no doubt about it, has the stuff to be an everyday major league pitcher, be an advanced one at that, but he just really hasn't been that great in his career at controlling it. Now, this year, he is much better at getting the walks down, only at 11.2% rate. That's about 4.6 walks per 9 innings. Previously, that number had been up in the sixes, sevens. He just hadn't been able to show that he can control his elite arsenal. Now, he does have elite pitches and he does get a lot of strikeouts. The FIP, XFIP, they're a lot kinder to him than what his ERA would suggest. A 5.09 ERA is nothing that you ever want to have as a pitcher, but he has the stuff. Like, he has the stuff. He's doing better at controlling it. He's heading in a good direction. If he can continue to progress in that way, I think he could still be the elite prospect that we were hoping for. He's still only 20 years old, so I'm going to give them some bail, especially whenever you consider that they saved almost $1 million with this selection, and to consider that they got possibly an elite pitching prospect on top of that. I think they did pretty good in that regard, so I'm going to give them a B plus. And number 9, the Colorado Rockies took Chase Dolander, who is a very intriguing prospect because he actually lost his prospect status here recently because he's been at the major league level and he's been getting kind of shelled, just to call it what it is. I think it's a bit of the Coors effect though, because if you look at his away stats versus his home stats, not to say he's been elite on the road, but he's been a lot better at home. He's been getting shelled, and that 6.06 ERA overall kind of shows that. But he has been weirdly better about the type of contact he's been giving up. If you just look at the ground ball rate at the BABIP, he's been doing better than what he was as a prospect. He's getting a lot more quality contact onto the ground, the type of contact you looked for as a pitcher. It's just the home runs have really been getting the better of him. He's giving up 18.4 home runs per fly ball, which is just an astronomically high number. Strikeouts being down are a concern. He was at about 12 per 9 innings as a minor leaguer. This year it's at 7, so it's very concerning in that regard. The walks are slightly up from where he was as a prospect. It's just the home runs, I think, are really nailing him, and I think that has a lot to do with Coors. So I gave him a B plus. I think there is still a good pitcher in there. I don't think we've completely lost Chase Dolander. It's just Coors, man. At number 8, the Kansas City Royals took a catcher out of high school in Blake Mitchell, who last year we saw it put it all together with his elite pop combined with his good fielding. He had 18 homers and 51 RBIs, weirdly stole 26 bags as a catcher with 30 grade speed. He definitely is very savvy in that regard, but walked over 16% of the time. Now, the strikeout rate is very high at 30%, but mind you, he's 19 years old. We can improve that over time. This year, we haven't really seen him play. He's only played 6 games at the rookie ball level, just kind of as a rehab assignment. You definitely expect if he can continue to put up elite hitting numbers as a catcher, he's going to be a very high rated prospect moving forward. So I gave them an A, but if he can't get healthy or if he continues to struggle with injuries and it slows his progression, you could definitely see him falling a little bit. And number 7, the Cincinnati Reds took Rhett Lauder out of Wake Forest. This was another really intriguing right-handed prospect that everybody was talking about in this draft. Ended up in Cincinnati, and he has looked incredible, especially in his major league performance last year. It was a little lucky, I will say, not giving up a homer across 6 starts in Cincinnati is very fortunate, I would say. Cincinnati allows a lot of homers, and a 1.17 ERA was very impressive. I don't expect that to continue. I expect him to be more of a middle of the rotation sort of guy. He has very good control, decent stuff. He's just going to be a very solid pitcher. He has struggled this year in the minor leagues across his 4 starts, but I just don't think it's going to continue as he, moves forward and gets healthier, gets better. I just expect him to be a middle of the rotation guy, and I think I'm going to give them an A minus, especially considering they saved some money on him as well. At number 6, we have one of the most fun players in the major leagues this year. It is Jacob Wilson of the Athletics, and it's because he's just a really fun prospect. He only walks 5.5% of the time, but he only strikes out 6.7. He has a 345 batting average, 387 on base, a 484 slug. He's actually hitting for some pop this year with 9 homers, already a career high. He has 5 stolen bases. He's not playing the worst defense in the world. Like, he's just such a fun prospect. I'm going to give them an A for this one because if you have a guy that's going to be an all-star 2 years after he got drafted, I think you deserve an A. At number 5, the Minnesota Twins took Walker Jenkins, an outfield prospect from high school. Walker Jenkins must have got the traits that the rest of the Minnesota Twins have where they just get injured all the time, but they are very toolsy. They are very toolsy. He is one of the most toolsy guys you can imagine. He can play center if you want him to. He's going to hit the crap out of the baseball. He has a good arm. He does everything. He does everything well. Now, I'm trying not to read too much into his 18 games this year because he hasn't looked the best, but he's been often injured. I'm just trying not to read into it because last year he was incredible. 282 batting average, 394 on base, 439 slug, 833 OPS. He has 6 homers. He's walking more than he strikeouts. Has 17 stolen bases last year as well. He has an 850 OPS across his minor league career. He also is just 20 years old at the AA level. Like, there's nothing to say. Like, he's just incredible. He's the number 6 prospect in all of baseball. You got him at number 5. I'm going to count that as an A as well. But the good prospects don't stop there because Wyatt Langford went to the Texas Rangers at number 4, and he made it to the major leagues the next year. Played almost every single game for them, had a 740 OPS, switched over some time in center field as well. He has just been incredible. He's been incredible. There's nothing you can say about the top of this class because they are all just knock it out of the park picks. He hasn't really turned it on offensively the way you might have expected. You know, he hasn't been lighting the world on fire, but he is just really impressive, especially whenever you consider he's moving over playing some center field as well. 13 homers this year, 31 RBIs, stealing some bags with 11. It's just really solid. I'm going to give him an A. You get an everyday player who can put up plus production as a center fielder mostly. I'm going to give you, a good grade. At number 3, the Detroit Tigers took Max Clark, who currently sits as the number 7 prospect in all of baseball. He was another outfield prospect from high school, and again, very, very toolsy, and we're seeing it this year. He's finally putting it all together. He's gotten better every year. This year, we're seeing it even more with 60 games played, has an 822 OPS, already has 6 homers on the year, 40 RBIs. He has 11 stolen bases. He plays a good outfield. Like, he just does everything, and it's just another really impressive pick. The top part of this class was incredible, and there just wasn't a wrong turn made, it doesn't seem like, with Max Clark getting another A. At number 2, Dylan Cruz was selected by the Washington Nationals, another guy that made it to the major leagues within a year and a half of being drafted, which is very impressive in of itself, and he deserved it. He was the number 1 prospect in baseball for a reason. He was a center field prospect who had pop, looked like he was going to be a plus offensive player, plus very plus defensive player. Major league wise, it hasn't been that. Last year, he still looked good defensively, but the bat really hadn't come around. This year, some of the slugging had started to come through. He had 7 homers already in 45 games played, had 11 stolen bases, but the K rate is really high for what we expected. The walk rate isn't there either. He just hasn't looked like the player we expected, but he was mashing every level of the minor leagues up to the point of getting to the majors. So I'm going to give them an A minus because he is still very talented and will probably be a good everyday player, but there are some warning signs starting to flash for Dylan Cruz. And then the number 1 pick of the draft was Paul Skenes. Do I really need to talk about this that much? Because Paul Skenes, within a year of being drafted, was the All-Star Game starter, was in consideration for the Cy Young. He's coming back this year. He's just continuing to dominate. Like, there's nothing that you could say that could properly show how good he's been. Paul Skenes has just been that guy. I gave them the A+ of the video. There were plenty of players that could have got it, but I'm a Pirates fan at the end of the day. I'm going to give it to the Pirates for the one thing they've done right in about the last 5 years. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave your comments down below about where you guys think the grade should have been, where the A+ should have been, who had the best pick in the first round. Hope you guys enjoyed it again. Have a wonderful day.